she was a drama teacher because I went to a boarding school that had a really great theater program, and her name was Janice Stewart, and she was my director and my theater teacher, and she really mentored me and was like a substitute mother for me in ways that I really needed one.
When I was in elementary school, I had a first grade teacher and a sixth grade teacher, and both of them really held space for me and really inspired me to keep going since I grew up in a not really good neighborhood. And so, yeah.
I did grow through her mentorship because she taught me that I was enough and that I had a lot of talent and a lot of qualities that were really interesting and valuable, and so she just supported me in the way that I needed someone to support me, and she loved me in the way that I needed a mother to love me.
Through their mentorship, they really, like I said, they taught me how to have a voice and how to be sort of unapologetic about the way I move through the world, and that you can rely on your community to help you get places.
Well, I had a young woman who I mentored. Her name is Sam, and she would often meet me with fire, and she was just as stubborn as I was, and I realized after a while that my kindness would get more of a result from her than any kind of fire or stubbornness would get a result. And so I realized that the softer parts of my personality are just as powerful as the strict parts of my personality.
The most recent situation I learned from a student is we were in a cipher, and a cipher is a circle where one person goes in and everybody supports the person that goes in and freestyles and lets them be fearless. And every time I see one of my students be fearless, it teaches me to continue being fearless and that you can always grow in your fearlessness. So in terms of giving advice to teaching artists, to be open to your students and to always relieve that dynamic that you have the power and they're under your power. You're just as much as the learner as they are.
Well, sounds cheesy, but a lot of my students are artists that inspire me, and also some slam poets. They inspire me, like Jéhan Òsanyìn and Pages Matam and Elizabeth Acevedo. And Charlene Woodard, she does a lot of one-person storytelling, and I think she's an amazing writer. And there's a composer, his name is Le Chevalier de St. Georges, and he's a black composer. They call him the Black Mozart, but because he was popular around the time that Mozart was, but he was black, and so he didn't get as much fame.
Well, there's so many. Most of them are local. So I would all of AU Collective, and that's a collective of queer, people of color, women dancers, and they do work that puts those people in the forefront. Danny Terrell, Amy O'Neill, the entire Street Styles dance community. I'm really inspired by all of them. A vibrant learning environment really has to do with being connected with your students, and again, relieving that dynamic and being open. So we do a lot of games. We have a lot of discussions, and whenever something happens, I don't just let it brush it off. We talk about, well, why did that happen? And letting them really come to the conclusions for themselves is really a great way of seeing my students grow. It's not me giving the answers, it's them coming to their own answer, and that's really beautiful.
I laugh a lot, and I have a sense of humor about the ways that I mess up and the ways that my students mess up, and I make sure that sense of humor and laughter isn't sarcastic. It's more just a love of life and an appreciation of the sillier parts of ourselves. I would love to go back to one of two places. One is a base camp at the bottom of Mount Kilimanjaro in Kenya, because it's beautiful and I would love to climb that mountain someday. Or there's a little cafe in Vietnam that I would love to just go back and sit in. It's called the Lemongrass Cafe.
The first one is Philippines, just because my mom is from there and I haven't been there since I was 4. I hate the cold, and Philippines is really warm, and it's where I'm from, so it would also just be a way for me to reconnect to my culture. Yeah. Cool.